Search Inside Yourself trains emotion intelligence in 3 big steps. The first step, counterintuitively enough, maybe not for this audience, but outside of this audience is counterintuitive, attention. Right? So the question is, what does attention have to do with emotion intelligence? And the answer is that if you can train attention to the degree that you can create a mind that is calm and clear at the same time, on demand, then that creates the foundation for all higher level cognitive and emotional abilities. And therefore, we train attention. Right? Calm and clear at the same time, on demand. And how do we do that? And obviously, we all know the answer, but the answer is mindfulness. Right? Mindfulness is moment, I like the technical definition, moment-to-moment, non-judging attention. It's as simple as that. If you give that definition to any audience, people understand it. Because everybody already know how to experience it. If you train a lot, if you do that a lot, you become very good at it. It's something that can improve with training. And then you can bring the mindfulness mind on demand. And that is when you can get a mind that's calm and clear at the same time. The emotions is like a flag fluttering in the wind and of turbulent emotions. And the mindfulness is like a flagpole that grounds you. There are a lot of science behind this. Oh, one thing you learn, if you teach this thing to engineers, you have to include the science. Right? So one of the fascinating scientific studies was this one from 2007. It involves the amygdala. Yeah, is everybody familiar with this study? But I'll just tell you anyway, just for the audience, for the kids watching at home. So there's this part of the brain called the amygdala, and it's a very primitive part of the brain. It evolved way before the thinking brain and so on. Okay? It's deep inside the brain, as you can see here. It is involved in emotional memory. Right? Memory that has a lot of emotional content activates the amygdala. For example, PTSD, fear memories. Okay? The amygdala has one very important feature, which is that if you perceive a threat, the amygdala takes over. Right? What does that mean? That means that your thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex, basically shuts down. And the amygdala takes over, and then the behavioral clues, you act irrationally. Right? You shout at the CEO, and so on. And then after a while, you say, wait a minute, I did that? I wasn't thinking. Right? And then literally, you were not thinking, because your prefrontal cortex shut down in favor of the amygdala. So given that, it's such an embedded neurological feature that you would think that this cannot be changed. And it turns out it's changeable. It turns out, according to this study, that people with a lot of mindfulness training, they are capable of voluntarily down-regulating the amygdala in stressful situations. And what that means is, in real life, what that means is you can think in times of severe stress. And you never shout at the CEO again for the rest of your life. and then you can be the jolly good fellow and not get fired, and so on. So there are a couple of studies like that. They're all very powerful. Usually, at this time, I would want to do a 2-minute mindfulness exercise to make it real. Right? Let's do it anyway, even for this audience, even for those who are familiar. There are 2 ways of doing mindfulness exercise with me. You can do this the easy way, right? Or you can do this the easier way. Yeah, with me, there's no hard way. Right? What is the easy way? The easy way is to bring a very gentle attention to the breathing, the process of the breathing, of the breath. That's all. And then when your attention wanders away, bring it back. The easier way is to go from doing to being. Or, in other words, just sit without agenda. Just sit, right? Doing to being. Neurologically, what that does is we have a network in the brain called what's it called? Experiencing network. So this is the part of the brain that experiences sensations. And then there's a part of the brain called the narrative network. And every time your senses are activated, the narrative part of the brain activates. So you tell stories about your experience. And it turns out that these two parts of the brain are distinct from each other. They are so closely related that most people cannot tell the difference. But a person trained in mindfulness can tell the difference and is capable of down-regulating the narrative mind, which is how we quiet our brain. Right? And the way to do that is to bring attention to sensation. Right? So that's what sitting without agenda does. So shall we do 2 minutes of sitting? Okay. Oh, one more thing. To make it, if that's not easy enough for you, to make it even easier, you can switch anytime. You can start with easy, and then you say, oh, this is too hard. This is too easier. No, this is too boring. This is too easy. Anytime, no questions asked. Okay? Yeah, I know. People like my classes because they're so easy. Okay. So let's start by sitting in a position that allows you to be alert and relaxed at the same time. Whatever that means to you. Alert and relaxed. And if you want to, you can close your eyes, or you can look at the floor in front of you, or if you want to, you can look at me because I'm so good looking. And for those of you who are choosing to do the easier way, you can just shift from doing to being. Just sit without agenda. Recognizing that just being is the most sacred and the most mundane experience in life at the same time. If you're taking the easy path, just bring a very gentle attention to the process of breathing. And if you like, you can imagine your breath as a mattress and the mind gently resting on the breath, whatever that means to you. Paying attention to the in-breath and the out-breath and all the spaces between the breaths. And thank you for your attention. So this is the introduction. For those who come to my class, this is the introduction to mindfulness. 2 minutes, very fast. Okay. Why 2 minutes, you might ask? Anybody curious? Yeah, okay. So I sit with my daughter when she was like 9 years old onwards for 2 minutes a day. And then I realized that the attention span of a child is the same as that of an engineer. so that's how it's done. Also, something very important about what you just did. I'm quoting this guy called William James, who is the father of modern psychology. And William James said something about what he just did. He said the faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the root of judgment, character, and will. Right? No one is a master of himself if he has it not. And an education which should improve this faculty would be the education par excellence. This thing that you just did is the best thing you can learn in your life, according to William James. Right? So for those of you younger folks that are going to school, yeah, that's all. This is better. Okay. There's one other insight which is very important, which is So you're all experienced meditators. But for anybody who's not an experienced meditator over here, okay, when you were sitting, what was the experience like? Right? Will you describe it as calming? Right? Will you use the word happy to describe the state? That is the very important insight. When you get into a state that is calm and clear at the same time, and you can maintain it for a prolonged period of time, a third quality emerges. And that quality is the quality of joy. And there's a technical term for it. In Sanskrit, we call it sukha. The best definition of sukha that I know of is the most technical definition, which is non-energetic joy. It is the joy that doesn't require energy. And because it doesn't require energy, the first characteristic is highly sustainable. Right? It's always there. The second characteristic is because it's so subtle, it takes a very quiet mind to reach there. But once you reach that, that means that you can bring about inner joy on demand. And that is an important insight. The insight is that first, that happiness is the default state of mind. You don't have to do anything. You just have to allow it, just be. And the second insight is that happiness is not something you pursue. Happiness is something you allow because it's always been there. And that one insight alone in my class can change your life. So this is a cartoon representing happiness is your default state. So that is step one of search inside yourself, attention training. Step two, what do you do with attention? Right? And the step two is to use that sharpened attention to create the type of self-knowledge that enables self-mastery. So what does that mean? So the first thing you do is with a sharp attention, we create what we call a high-resolution perception of the emotional process. High resolution in two dimensions. So one dimension is spatial, which means that you're able to perceive small changes in the emotional process. You can see emotions arising and falling. The second dimension is temporal, which means that you can see emotions in small slices of time, or in engineering terms, you can experience emotions in real time. Right? And that opens up a lot of possibilities. One possibility opens up is you can detect emotion like anger. You can detect anger the moment it is arising because you have that resolution of perception. And if you can do that, then you might find that the moment it is arising is the best moment to turn it off if you want to turn it off, or if you want to just allow it to be. But that is the moment of choice. Therefore, once you have the perception, you have choice over emotions. You become the master of the emotional process. So that's like a couple of good things about that. Let me see. Oh, there's one other insight. So this eventually leads to, it leads to a very profound self-awareness that leads to self-mastery, and it also leads to confidence. Right? Because once you have the mastery over your emotions, and you find yourself able to align yourself with true values. You know what you want, you know what you're heading for, you know how to recover your emotion, and blah, blah, blah. Then there is a lot of confidence. There's nothing that can bother you. Right? There's no closet, there's no skeleton in your closet that you don't already know of that you're not comfortable with. Then you can do great things in life. One of the things we do a lot is body scanning. Body scanning is a practice of bringing attention to different parts of the body. And what that does is it strengthens the insula, the part of the brain over here. And the insula is highly correlated with bodily awareness and emotional awareness and empathy. The same neural equipment is used in at least 3 different instances because they're all using the same process. Let me see if I have time to explain it. It's kind of fascinating. I explain the process. How does empathy work? Empathy works when I interact with another person and I reflect her emotions on my own body. And then I use my insula to read those emotions. Right? And that is how empathy works, which is why the person with high self-awareness also have high empathy. The brain has a way of conservation. So fascinating stuff. And also, if you go around on this path of bringing a high-resolution perception into emotion, one important possibility opens up. It is a possibility that you find when you have insight into the emotional process. And okay, I say this as a suggestion. So it's for you to verify or to falsify with your own practice. So, but I suggest that somewhere in your practice, you might find that emotions is a physiological process. Right? And once you find that, you might change the way you frame emotions. It's no longer existential. For example, you no longer say, I am angry. You say, I'm experiencing anger, or I'm experiencing the process of anger in my body. And once you go from existential to physiological, something profoundly changes, which is power. Right? Because if it's existential, it's I am angry. I can't change that. It's who I am. Right? But if emotion, if anger, if whatever is just a sensation or experience in my body, it is the same as pain. I can do something about it. It's not me, right? So I can, if I hurt my hand, I can take a Tylenol. Right? I can ignore it, or I can heal it, or whatever. I have options, because fundamentally it's not my being. And so once you experientially have the insight that emotional experience is not your being, then you can change it. Then possibilities open up. So this is step 2. Step 2 can be seen as creating intrapersonal intelligence. Step 3 is to create mental habits that are conducive for social skills. What does that mean? I want to suggest, again, you may disagree, and again, it's up to you to verify or falsify. I want to suggest that kindness and compassion and all those good things are mental habits. Right? For example, what's a mental habit of kindness? Is when you look at any human being, the first thought habitually is, I want this person to be happy. Right? I want this person to be happy. That's the first thing that comes to your mind. That is the mental habit of kindness. The mental habit of compassion is slightly more nuanced. So my suggestion is, mental habit of compassion is, the first is, I want to help this person. So it's a mental habit of motivation. And then there's a mental habit that I can help this person. So it's the habit of confidence. Right? And because they are all mental habits, they are trainable. All habits are trainable. So the third part of the class is in creating these mental habits. And these are the standard procedures. So metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation, which in class we sort of tune in, so it's highly secular and it's acceptable to engineers. Right? But once you do that, imagine like you have that mental habit of kindness, like you walk into a meeting room, you look at everybody in the meeting room, and the first thought is, I want this person to be happy, I want this person happy. It changes all your interactions at work, right? That everybody in the meeting room likes you, and they don't really know why, because it's unconscious. Yeah, and most of the time you don't know why they like you so much. You think it's because you're good looking. Right? And it turns out it's not my good looks, it's just my kindness, damn it. Just kidding. So one shorthand of saying this is what you think you become. Sorry, this one involves a little bit of reading, and so that's the cartoon version of me telling a student what you frequently think you'll become, and the guy goes home and tells his wife, I'm going to become a hamburger. But that's not what I mean, for those of you wondering. So these are the 3 steps for SIY, search inside yourself. I'm going to end with one other subtopic, which is what lessons we have learned from teaching SIY in Google. And I hope this will be applicable to you, especially those of you who are teaching or who are business leaders or both. The first is, if you want to bring this to a corporate context, especially with very smart people who are very who are not very in touch with the board, with the spirit of themselves, science is very important. You have to get the science. You have to be comfortable with the science, not just read according to this finding, blah, blah, blah. You must own the knowledge, know it inside out. Then they respect you. Preferably you have 2 degrees in engineering. Then they respect you even more. But if you don't, get comfortable with the science. Okay? The second thing is something I talked about, which is customer orientation. Right? Meet them where they are. Upaya. And in this case, it means business applications. Whatever you teach in class, there has to be something in their work life they can apply to. And one example I can give you is loving kindness. If you go to class and teach loving kindness, like they will say, why the hell am I doing this? Right? But if what I just told you, right, if you walk into a meeting room thinking, I want this person to be happy, it changes all the interactions. And people say, I get it. Then all my meetings will be more effective. So they get it. So they have to be business applications. The third thing is language. Language is important. A lot of us growing up in this, we speak in a different way, and it just flows across their heads. I give you a classical example. In this community, we like to say, developing a deep awareness of emotion. If you go to Google, nobody knows what that means. Because deep awareness, as opposed to what? As opposed to shallow awareness? Like, what the hell is that? Right? And the reason they don't get it is because it's beyond their current range of current range of expertise, because they haven't done that work. Therefore, you have to speak it in language that they can understand. Or the way I say it in a way that even Meng can understand. If Meng can understand it, then it works. Right? And the way I understand it in that example of deep awareness is I say high-resolution perception into the process of emotion. Because everybody knows what is high-resolution perception. And of course, and it's the truth, right? It's not. I'm not lying. I'm not fluffing it up. It is what it is. I mean, it's really high-resolution perception. So be truthful, but in a way that is technical, that real people understand.